Well, as a Korean mayor, I finished my military service last year. Well, it wasn't useless experience, but it wasn't pleasant experience at all. But there was no choice for, it was mandatory for all Korean mayor. But the only compensation was the feeling of relief that I finished the service safely. Well, nowadays, the Korean government never care about the compensation of soldiers and also the people in this church. They always blame the shortage of budget. But this is wrong. Many people had to sacrifice 3 years and even their health body. Well, from now on, I want to talk about why the government should care about the good welfare for soldiers and also the compensation for people in this church. For the first part, I'll talk about the welfare, especially for the barracks and the salary. Well, during the Congress briefing, the Congresswoman Sun In-chun said that more than 65% of the military workers are needed to be replaced or revised because it cannot function anymore. And also the soldiers' residential space is less than half of minimum standard of residential space. And well, it's narrower than prison. And again, it's narrower than prison. And also salary is also a problem. Well, it's slightly increased this year, 15%. But still, I want to tell you that the sergeant salary, the highest salary, is only about 171,000 won. That is converted to $151. Well, converted to hourly wage, it can be calculated as 251. That is 22 cents. Well, I want to tell you that the current minimum hourly wage for Korean workers is 5,500 won. That is $4.9. Well, it's still unreasonable. Well, I want to tell you that the good welfare is not the privilege, but the basic human rights. Well, according to the former German military officer Jens Olaf Kortmann, there's a concept called citizens in uniform that indicates that the soldiers should be treated as equal as civilians because they also have the basic human rights. Well, in Korea, the soldiers are treated as consumables, but to be honest, as slaves. That is against this concept of pre-democracy. And now, I want to talk about another people, that is people who discharge. Well, the compensation is not enough. But in case of reserve forces training, the compensation fee cannot cover the actual traffic when participate in training. And also for workers, they should take the revenue loss when they participate in this forces training. And the government never compensates about this loss. Well, frankly speaking, there was a compensation that gives additional points for those who take civil servant examinations. Well, unfortunately, it was abolished in 1999 by Constitutional Court because it's against so-called gender equality. Well, though the government tries to revive it, I think it's just the evasion of reality because it's not a real compensation. It's only beneficial for those who take tests. So my opinion is this: the more practical compensation is needed for both soldiers and discharged people. For soldiers in active, of course, the salary should be raised to a reasonable level, and also the barracks should be modernized, like military lockers. And for discharged people, the compensation fee should cover actual traffic fees. And for those who work at the company, the government should provide compensation for revenue loss that they could have earned if they did not participate in this reserve forces training. Well, here's the conclusions. Well, since the Korean War, many Korean males have to endure the loss of their basic human rights. Well, it can be an excuse during the wartime, maybe in the 1970s or 80s, when we were in very poor conditions. But in the year 2015, things have been changed. The government is spending 40 trillion won, that is $34 billion on the military. But they only spent less than $2 billion on the welfare, the compensation. I think it's not the matter of budget, but the matter of will. So now I wanted to argue that we need to focus on this military compensation program for their future. Thank you.